everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Linda the Old Bird. I'm so happy you're in our group. Look at who I found. Barbara. Now let me tell you, Barbara does something called Rusted Quilting. Now we haven't talked because I wanted everything to be fresh when we came on live in the group. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. I'm so excited to talk about your rustic quilting. Now, Barbara, let me give you a little background. I'm Linda the Old Bird. I'm learning to quilt correctly. I'm finishing up a piece by hand as we speak. I saw where you posted something about your rustic quilts, and I asked you to come on live with me. I thought the group members would love to hear what that is. So tell me, what is that?
Well, traditionally, people that rust on fabric will find an item like a rusty saw blade or a wrench or something and put the fabric on it, and you get the fabric wet and let the rust get into the fabric. So that's how it's normally done. It can be a challenge to quilt through because then you've got little bits of iron in your fabric. And I was looking for a way to replicate my photographs because most of my quilts are based on my photographs. And replicate my photographs to get kind of a companion fabric to go with the photographs. And I wasn't able to do that in the traditional method. So I, kept thinking about it and finally, I went, well, what I really want to be able to do is to use rust the way I use a Thermofax screen. And so I'm guessing I'll have to explain the Thermofax screen as well. So the Thermofax screen, I usually do. So Thermofax screen printing is a way of getting usually dye onto fabric in a pattern. So you make a screen of whatever graphic you want. So the way you make the screen is to change your image into black and white, and then you make a toner copy and you put it through a Thermofax machine.
Okay.
And that makes you, so these are, I believe these are the machines that they used to use that would turn out blue. Well, I think somebody told me they used to be blue when you printed with them. And it's so similar to like the mimeograph.
Okay.
So it's an old technology. And today, mostly quilters and tattoo artists use them.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, I know. I had no idea either when I first heard about it. I'm like, I've got to know about this. But yeah, so you make a screen for screen printing, and then usually you'll lay the screen down on the fabric, put some dye there, and then thicken dye so it doesn't bleed all over the place. And you squeegee it across the screen to leave a print, just like a print making on paper.
Yeah.
So I kept trying to figure out how I could do it with the screens. And I finally came up with using iron powder in the same print paste you would use for adding your dye to.
Now,
so I call it.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
Where do you get iron powder from?
Good question. And I can also tell you there's a difference between iron powder and I can't remember what the other one was called that's already been through its rusting process, so it doesn't rust then. So I found that out the hard way. So I searched online, and they have it for like chemists to use. So it's a really, really fine powder of iron. So I can mix it into the print paste. Let it sit for a little bit. You can actually use it if you, it'll start to rust a little bit as you let it sit, and you have to let it get thickened and everything. Or you can use it right away. It will just take a little bit longer for it to rust on the fabric if it's not already sat for a day or two. But But anyway, so you just do it just like you would the print paste for dye, and scrape it on just like you did the other. But then you take it and spritz it with water, vinegar, and salt.
Okay.
And it works wonderfully. If it's a hot, humid day, it will be done in like an hour. If it's not, it can take all day long. But so usually I'll work in my garage, and then when I get it printed, then I take it out into the driveway in the sun.
Okay.
So so like I said, it can print really, really quickly, and then it leaves the image on the fabric, and it's because it's the powder. It's a much thinner amount of rust that is on the fabric than if you used an item. Because when you use the item, actually pieces of the iron, the item will actually flake off. And then you've got a kind of a heavy chunk in there that's actually sitting in the fabric. And it will continue to rust with time. So with this, I've rusted it lightly on the surface. It will actually show through the back, but it's more of just a light dusting on the fabric and staining than you get if you're using an item.
Okay.
And then you just rinse it out, and there's no big chunks left over or anything. So it rinses away really nicely. Anything that isn't rusted goes down the drain or into the lawn. So, so I know that was a lot of information. So do you have any questions on what I said?
No, I got it. My next question is, do you have to then wash the fabric before you can use it?
Yes, and since I'm a dyer, I have a chemical called Synthropol, which is like a commercial fabric wash. So it's like a concentrated, heavier duty laundry detergent, basically.
Okay.
So I use that. So I rinse it, and I then just wash it like I would my dyed fabric in the washing machine with some Synthropol. So yeah, and so then it's perfectly fine. You can also do what is it? Oh goodness, I can't think of the chemical. The one.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. Yeah, it is, and I really enjoy doing it. And I did have it. If anybody out there has got older Quilting Arts magazines, in 2013, Quilting Arts published my process. So you can probably find it out there if you're looking for it.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
No. And I did prep a PowerPoint if you want to see some images of the process that might help a little bit, if and some quilts if you wanted to see that.
Okay. Do you have a quilt with you that we can see?
I do. I've got a couple here. I'll show you the little bitty ones because those are the easiest to share.
Okay.
So this is a really simple one. So this one is not, let's see, there we go. This one is not Thermofax screened. It is, it's actually drawn. So the same process I used for prepping the iron, and then I put it in a squeeze bottle, and then I just squeeze the design on.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Now this one.
Can we purchase your fabrics?
What's that?
Can we purchase your fabrics?
Oh, I've never even thought about doing that. I could probably do something. I could probably do something, in particular if there was something, that somebody wanted, like an image or something, because, I could take a personal image and have it printed and then do screens from there. I can also, if somebody wanted to try it, I've got a few kits that I could, send out if anybody wanted to purchase those. They've just got a little tiny screen and a little tiny bit of iron and the things that you need. Yes, right. To find out if so you don't have a lot, into this because like I buy the iron powder and it comes in like one of those little quart paint cans.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of iron for somebody that's not doing this all the time. So I
Now,
just send out like a.
where can we find your products?
Well, you know what? I haven't put it online, so I can think about doing that and figuring out where. Probably do it. I know I've got an Etsy shop that I never put anything in, so that would certainly be easy enough to do.
Okay.
So I can look at doing that.
And send it to me. Send me an
Okay.
email with your contact information so I can put it underneath the videos. This
Okay.
is live on YouTube and it's live in the group. So send me
Okay.
your contact information. This is absolutely the first time I have ever heard of this process. I think it is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, guys, if you have any questions, just type them in the feed and I'll see them and I'll be able to ask Barbara. Now, Barbara, do you have another piece you'd like to share with us?
Yes, and this one is using the process with the Thermofax screen. So I took, it's always so awkward finding the right spot.
That's it.
Okay.
I see it. A door.
Yes, so that's a doorway in Pisa.
Yes.
And then the background is from a photograph I took of a fortress in Florence. My husband was in the military and we lived in Italy for 3 years. So I used, I manipulated the wall of the fortress and got this triangular thing, patterning, and then use the two screens together to come up with this.
It's beautiful. Absolutely.
And I can get a little closer, and it's got like some hand stitching in there and everything.
Now your small pieces, are they made to be framed?
No, they're not, but they could be. These, like this one that I just held up, usually I will face them. And the label is usually a photo of the original photo that's in whatever the quilt is. So this one is actually not faced. So I was going to show you how I face them, but I guess I won't. So this one is more like a pillowcase where you sew to the front, you sew the back on top of the front, put a little slit in the back or leave an opening, flip it around, and then sew it down. So another one had a binding. But yeah, they certainly could be framed. The way I usually hang them, let me see. So they often go to shows. So they're prepped usually for a show. So they've got a little sleeve in there to put a slat in or to go over a rod for the shows.
I got it. Okay, so we can hang them.
So I've got a bigger one here, which of course I don't have much room behind me, so I'll just have to show you some spots.
Okay.
So this one, and this one is a piece that I had done. Let me see. I had dyed some fabric. So this piece down here, this spot down here was a dye cloth, just my rag for cleaning up dye when I'm dyeing. And then I took it and I wrapped it around a pole, and it's called Shibori, Arashi Shibori. And you wrap the fabric around a pole and then you scrunch it all down. So you wrap it around a pole, securing it with a whole bunch of twine or rope or string or whatever. And so that it's going in a spiral along the pole. And then you push it all down to one end of the pole, and then usually you would dye it, but in this case I used the rust again to do it. So it's got that striped is the rust, and then the stuff on the background. And then what I did was I took I made a quilt top, and then this was an experiment. So I actually rusted this big giant circle that you can see part of it there around the whole top after the top was completed. And then I also did dye on top after it was completed. So that's like here, this is a, this purple line is dye that I drizzled on. And then this is rust, like I said, in a squeeze bottle that I drizzled all around.
Now, Barbara, Lynn Campbell is saying, thanks for sharing. That's a great idea for labels.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, yeah, in fact, I've had my labels printed in Quilting Arts magazine as well. They, like I said, most of my things are inspired from photographs. And so often the label is the original photograph that it's worked from.
Now, the fabrics that you use, are they 100% cotton or silk, or what type of fabrics do you use?
I mostly use 100% cottons. This one is all 100% cottons, and so were the other two that I showed you. I do look for sources, locally to recycle. So like this one has, I don't know if you noticed there was a lot of texture. I don't know how much that comes through in the video because it's, not the best video, but this has a texture of, it's like a toweling, an old toweling. So it was in a big, really long continuous piece, not very wide. And so I figure it had to have been like the pole toweling in like a bathroom for washing your hands, where you would just recycle and they'd wash it, and so that's where a lot of my fabrics come from. Is I consider thrift shops my art supply store.
That's wonderful. And you can find 100% cotton.
Yes, you do sometimes have to take a gamble, because sometimes like I'll find sheets or something, or a big piece of fabric and there's no label on it. But rusting will work on, basically it's staining, and it will stain whether it's cotton or synthetic.
Okay. Someone says, do you transfer your photos? That's me. Do you transfer your photos?
Well, I do. I directly print on the fabric myself. So I have a printer that there's two types of printer ink. One is dye based and one is pigment based.
Okay.
And while the dye based seemed like that would be the way to go, it is less permanent than the pigment inks. So if you have pigment inks in your printer, which there are quite a few printers that you can put them in, but don't necessarily come with them. They are a permanent ink on fabric.
I didn't know that.
The other ones you have to either pre-treat or post-treat with some chemicals to get them to stay permanently on the fabric. And even with that, really truly like a paint, the ink from a printer is sitting on the surface. It is not chemically bonding with the fibers like a dye does. Yes. So it will slowly come off with time. But they're fairly permanent.
Okay.
I also have lately been doing some larger prints that I send off. There's so many really terrific online printers now that you just send your image and you tell them how you want it printed on what kind of fabric, and they send the fabric to you.
Get out!
Yeah, it's fabulous. You can find just about anything online. So as far as printed fabric. So
I need to write that down. Now,
okay.
What would I Google to get that?
So I guess I would say print fabric on demand would probably be your best Google search. There is a very well-known fabric place that prints that I would say is going to come up for you, and most people who have done it have used them, and that's spoon flour. So like a spoon and a flour together. And they have, like you can make your account and you can upload your stuff, and then you can choose whether to have that for sale for other people to purchase. So they can pick what fabric they want it on, put it on they can put it on wallpaper, wrapping paper, all kinds of things. And they will
They will do photographs.
They'll do photographs, they'll do imagery that you design, anything. So most people that use it are designing the fabric themselves, and they have like tutorials where you can go in and learn how to make a repeating pattern and all of that. So far, I've only used it to print my own designs for myself.
I'm gonna look that up today. I was familiar with spoon flower years ago when they came out. We sent my husband's logo and printed up the fabric to go around the table, when you have something on display. But I had no idea they would take my design and create fabric.
Yeah.
And someone else is agreeing with you, and they're saying, yes, spoon flower does it. And someone says, what if you use a hot iron? Now, I don't know what they're talking about. Lynn, use a hot iron on what? And she says, I love spoon flower. I'm going to go there today. As soon as we get off, I'm going to spend the day quilting and try to finish my piece, but I'm going to go there and look at the tutorials. Thank you for sharing this information with us, Barbara.
Oh, certainly. I'm happy to share. Yeah. I do also know that Joann's has just started doing print on demand, and most people will be familiar with Joann's. So I have not heard any, I haven't done it, and I haven't heard anybody who's done it yet to hear what they think of it, but I would assume that they're going to have a good quality product.
Yes. I'm writing it down.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of them. Yeah.
I'm telling you, you've got to come back and join us again.
I would be happy to.
Now, wait a minute before we end. She's saying, what if you use a hot iron to make your transfer permanent?
Yes. So meaning the print, it will help it be more permanent, but without the chemicals, it's not going to fully make it permanent. So you really, right. So you can use the pre-treated fabric. They come in pre-treated fabric sheets, and those already have the chemicals on, and they're prepared for the inks. And then you just follow their directions to make sure. Some of them you have to wash or iron or, do something at the end. And then there are a couple that you can pre-treat yourself. So before I had the printer that I have now that has the permanent inks in it, what I do is I iron the fabric onto freezer paper. And you can either pre-treat the fabric before you iron it onto the freezer paper, or you can print on it and then post-treat it. So there's two different methods. So the pre-treatment, you would use a chemical called bubble jet set.
Okay.
And you can find that often at quilt shops and like Joann's and things. If you post-treat it, you're going to use a chemical called retain, and then wash it with the synthropol, like I mentioned before, that I use, which is the more of a commercial detergent.
Okay. She's saying.
So and.
Oh, okay. So she's thanking you.
Oh, certainly, yeah, and also you have to remember that while they keep improving the inks, they still are going to fade if they're in the sunlight, just like a fabric will. So they'll probably fade a little faster than a regular fabric sitting in the sun. So, of course, we try to keep our quilts so they're not in direct sunlight, so they don't fade too fast anyway. But it's just something to think about also with that.
Okay. She says, oh, okay. Thank you so much, Barbara. I really appreciate you joining us today. I thank you for all that you shared with us. You've shared so many things, and you are such an amazing quilt artist. Thank you for sharing your process with us today.
Thank you. That's very kind. I appreciate it. I really have enjoyed listening to you and following you on Instagram. And sometimes I'm like, going through Instagram, going, I don't have time to listen and stop and hear her video. And sometimes I make myself not do it, and I just smile that I know it would have made me happy. And then other times I'm like, no, you're going to stop and you're going to calm yourself down and take a minute to listen to Linda, because you always make me feel, happy, and you're so positive, and I just love listening to you, and I appreciate it. I've got like 3 people that on Instagram that I follow that always uplift me, and you're one of them, and I appreciate that.
Wonderful.
So,
Oh, what a blessing to hear that. I hope so. I really hope that that's what I do. But thank you, Bob.
yes, definitely.
You need to teach.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I learned so much today. And so did our viewers. And they are saying, thanks for doing this. So thank you, Bob.
Certainly. And if if you see another thing on my Instagram that you're like, I want to know about this, don't hesitate to ask. I'm happy to come back and talk with you guys. If I might, I'd love to hear a little bit about your group. Like, how many are you, and how long have you been meeting? What kinds of things do you do?
Okay, yes. Everybody, look. Barbara is on Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
It's like Barbara, maybe _ Triscari. But if you start typing in Barbara and if you don't have to remember the whole Triscari, but get that TRI in there, and it'll come up, because I think there's only 2 of us with that name on social media that I've ever found. So you'll find me.
Wonderful. Now look, go to Instagram, guys, and follow Barbara. You'll be in for a treat. And you'll see more of her amazing quilts. So thank you again, Barbara.
Oh, no problem. I'm happy to do it. Yeah, and I'm also on Facebook, but Instagram is where I am every day. I try to post almost every day, whatever I'm working on. And I think Instagram, if you're not there, it's really a wonderful quilting community there. It's very, very busy and engaging, and I really enjoy it. So,
well, I already follow you, but guys, follow Barbara. And Barbara, when you have your shop, when you're going to give these seminars, when you're going to be teaching, you got to send us that information so we can be a part of that as well. And you have an amazing, blessed day.
Oh, thank you. You too. It was nice. Unfortunately, I can't see everybody else, but thanks for having me, everyone.
And they're sending you hearts. Guys,
thank you
for spending this time with me today. Get back to your quilting, and we'll talk real soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.